Hopefully one day we'll meet here and we'll look back on Guantanamo as a historical footnote rather than an ongoing chapter in our nation's history. Mitt Romney on the campaign trail is taken to quoting passages from America the Beautiful. I remember a passage from the Star-Spangled Banner that says, "The land of the free and the home of the brave." But for some reason over the past decade, we've become the constrained and the cowardly. I joined the military in 1983 because I believed in the land of the free and the home of the brave. And I'd like to have my country back, the one that I signed up to serve. But we've had people, fear-mongers, that have played to fear and portraying people as the worst of the worst and turning our backs on the law and running from the past decade. And we're still here today on the 10th anniversary of Guantanamo. Last year when I was here, we kind of went through the history of Guantanamo from 1494 when Columbus landed to the present. I won't bore you with that again. It's on the website if you want to look at it. But I was a Chief Prosecutor from 2005 to 2007, and I resigned when I was pressured to use evidence obtained by torture. I think people can argue whether enhanced interrogation techniques, what most people call torture, produce useful intelligence, but it certainly doesn't produce reliable evidence to be used in an American criminal proceeding. Well, President Obama hadn't just embraced the Bush policies, he's kissed it on the lips and ran away with it, particularly with the drone program. William Shawcross wrote, "The decision to use a drone to kill American citizens in Yemen was a remarkable turnaround for a politician who had criticized almost every aspect of the war on terror waged by his predecessor in the Oval Office. By the fall of 2010, it did not come as such a surprise. By then, Mr. Obama had also authorized military trials, which he had once condemned, to take place in Guantanamo, which he had promised to close. Like Mr. Bush, Mr. Obama had to learn the hard way that, as theologian Reinhold Niebuhr warned, quote, "We take and must continue to take morally hazardous actions to preserve our civilization." So again, I think that's the mindset that led to a decade of Guantanamo and turning our back on the rule of law. As I said, it's unfortunate when we criticize others and we can't hold ourselves up as the example. As a military person, I spent 25 years in the military. If you think back to 1991 and the first Gulf War, when we invaded Iraq, the war was over fairly quickly and with minimal casualties, because the Iraqis put down their weapons and raised their hands when they saw American soldiers because of our reputation for humane treatment and following the rule of law. It's in our national interest to have that reputation. Think about the image of America today. Would those same soldiers put their guns down and raise their hands and surrender if they thought they were going to be sexually humiliated, tortured, and indefinitely detained? So I'd contend from a military perspective and a national security perspective, it's not in our interest to maintain this facade that Guantanamo needs to continue indefinitely into the future. As I mentioned, in the case of Amir Hamadi, it's one thing to complain about his treatment, and it's unfortunate the situation that he's in, but we don't have a real strong leg to stand on when we're conducting the same process in Guantanamo. I was driving home a couple of weeks ago and I heard a story on NPR, and I turned on the radio in the middle of the story, and it was talking about a person being detained in Cuba and how unfair it was. And I'm thinking, this is going to be a story about Guantanamo. But it was a story about Alan Gross, who's an American citizen who worked for the State Department, who was apprehended in Cuba and prosecuted and is being detained in a Cuban prison. And the State Department was condemning holding him in that Cuban prison. And I'm thinking, on the other end of the island, we've got 171 people that we're doing the same thing to. Again, I think it's unfortunate we find ourselves in this situation. I look forward to the day. I mean, I always enjoy seeing Andy, but I hate to see him once a year here when we lament about the ongoing saga at Guantanamo Bay. So I'm hoping that we get back to our roots, and that when the campaign is over, I mean, it's amazing to me that on the campaign trail right now, it seems you can't be dumb enough and you can't be hateful enough. If you've watched the debates, what have been the big applause lines? If a person doesn't have health insurance, we'll let them die. Yeah. We've had more executions in Texas than anywhere else. Yeah. Waterboarding, if I'm elected, we'll go back to it. Yeah. That's what the American public, at least a segment of the American public, reacts to. So So I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come out here again this year to mark the 10th anniversary of Guantánamo. And I hope you'll go back and talk to your friends and your neighbors and remind them that we're Americans and we're better than this.
Thank you.